Hello, this is Dr. Stephanie Reid, the founder of Your Healing Place, moving you from panic to empowerment in every aspect of your life, just one concept at a time. Today's video is a recap of a webinar that I'd done, and I thought it necessary for people in the wellness community to get a little bit of understanding about viruses and the immune system and your cells, how that interacts with your organs to ultimately create disease, but also how we can deal with our current reality of the coronavirus, COVID-19. So without further ado, the webinar is going to start in just a moment. I hope you enjoy it and it becomes something that you can sink your teeth into, besides the obvious of washing your hands and keeping a personal social distance. So have a fantastic day. Take care. An educated question about. There's a lot of information that's going on in the government about what should be done, what people should be doing, but the information is so inconsistent. And so what I thought would be a good idea was to stay in the framework of our wellness journey so you know what to do within that space. Because that's where we are. We're in the natural wellness space, and a lot of the stuff that you're hearing in mainstream can be very scary, very confusing. But if you've already adopted a wellness strategy because you've been a part of Your Healing Place, then you're not thinking the way mainstream speaks thinking anyway. And I needed to make sure that you understood the place that you are from the position of naturopathy. Is that cool?
That's perfect. That's what I was looking for tonight.
Good, good. So that's exactly what you're going to get. So I put together this PowerPoint presentation so we can have a visual. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly, but not too fast that you won't get it. Just giving some basic information based on some key terms that's important for you to sink your teeth into, because there's way too much information for anybody to understand what to do. But if you get some key facts down, you can handle it. We're only going to be on here for 40 minutes, and I didn't want to belabor the process. I just wanted to give you as much information as possible. And the good thing is this is going to be recorded. So you can go back and listen to it, go back and watch it, and that way you'll be able to have this information at your fingertips, which is what the app is designed to do. Has everybody been getting their information on their app?
Yeah.
That cool? All right, so there's 5 of us on the chat. So let's get started. So as members of Your Healing Place, or of anybody else out there that's listening, there is a very specific premise about what goes on at Your Healing Place. Our mantra is to move clients from panic to empowerment. And basically what that means is when people come to Your Healing Place, they're at their wits' end. They're stressed out. They've had enough of the wellness model in terms of allopathic medicine, which would be your MD or your general wellness or Western practitioners. And they're saying, where is there a place that suits my needs for wellness that I could really believe in? Because the information that I'm getting is inconsistent, and my wellness goals are not being met. I'm not getting better. And so based on that model, that's why you are here. And that's why I felt the need to make sure that you had the information that you needed. So let's start with a few basic premises. Number 1, a really interesting premise is we are the keepers of wisdom and knowledge for times like this. And as women, we are the keepers of knowledge, because you learn with me that if you allow your spirit to speak, you know what's right and what's wrong. So you know when you hear something on the news, you say to yourself, that sounds crazy. I'm not following that. That sounds nuts. I've been watching CNN, MSNBC, BBC, all news outlets trying to get a handle on this situation that we're going through. And it seems like nobody understands what's happening or what to do about it. Well, we do know from our seat of wisdom that common sense breeds empowerment. And from that perspective, that's why I said that we are the keepers. You are the keepers of wisdom. So common sense says wash your hands. Common sense says keep your house clean, keep your clothes clean. Common sense says wash your food. You don't need anybody to tell you that. What you do need is to understand the different variables about the language that you're now hearing. And so that's where we get to the important stuff. And so the things that we're going to talk about today is who knows what? You know, because your spirit is telling you. But you're going to find out what's a cell, what's a virus, what's immunity, and the resources and the references that I got this information from. All of this stuff kind of creates a little ball. If you guys have had your coaching calls in the past couple of weeks, you've noticed that I might be using the term toolbox. You have a toolbox of information and resources from being a part of your healing place. And this is just another tool that you're going to add to your toolbox of understanding. So without further ado, let's get started. And so one of the things we want to talk about is a cell. Not gonna make it deep, just real simple to understand how this is gonna play out in your life. So your cell is the basic building blocks of everything of who you are. And when you're actually talking about immunity and your health, you're talking about your cellular health. And your cells provides the structure for your entire body. You take nutrition for your cells, your cells give you energy, and then those cells have specialized functions and turn into organs. That's what a cell is. When we talk about cells, when you're doing your hair tissue analysis or your Zyto scan, this is what we're talking about. When I talk about the lipid layer of the cell or the cell mitochondria in your bioscan, this is what we're talking about. It's just the basic building block of who you are. So if you think of Legos, you have one Lego, that's a cell. Now, if you bust the Lego apart, you'll find that there's some particles and stuff which will be represented here, because a cell has different components to it. So if I turn this cell around, you have the outside of the cell, which is what protects things from getting inside. So here's your cell. I'm moving it around. This is what your cell looks like on the outside. If you have a good immune system, nothing can get on the inside. And this is where all the magic happens in your cell. So that's the cell, okay? Now, the reason why that's so significant is because if we don't understand what a cell does, then you can't understand what immunity is, or the coronavirus for that matter. So here we go. When you have a cell, a cluster of cells makes up your organs. So a cluster of cells makes up your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidneys, your bladder, and your arteries and veins. That's all cells, okay? But now we have to understand, okay, now we're talking about cells. Cells have a really interesting part to play, because when we are talking about a virus is attacks the cells, and that's where sickness comes from. I believe that these, I'm gonna put everybody on mute because I hear coughing. Who's that has that wonderful cough?
It's probably me. I'll put myself on mute. Sister Cynthia, I apologize.
How are you feeling?
Wonderful, ma'am. Just got a little cough, trying to get through. I'm gonna go on mute. I was on video mute, but I didn't realize I wasn't on the other one.
That's
I'm gonna go
okay.
on mute now.
So now we're talking about what is a virus. I told you what a cell is. What's a virus? A virus is a very, very, very small type of cell. It's 100 times smaller than the average bacteria, so small that a microscope can't even find it. Viruses can only exert influence by invading a cell. So I just showed you that your cells make up your organs. And when a virus wants to attack, what it does is it jumps onto a cell and it tries to take over the whole cell. Imagine a balloon, and the balloon has a little bit of water in it. And as the balloon fills up with water, you no longer have the air. As the cell fills up with the virus DNA, you no longer have a cell. The cell takes over, the virus takes over the cell and kills it. And that's why viruses are so dangerous, because they replicate so fast and so quickly it overtakes the cell. But they can only do that if there's some situations that make it right to do it. So here's some virus facts. A virus can infect every living thing: plants, animals, water, anything. It can go in anything. And in order for a virus to really take hold, it gets into the cell of the body, and that's how it replicates. And it happens by air, by breathing, by coughing and sneezing. That's why it's important not to be around somebody who's coughing and sneezing, because it's those droplets of the virus that you inhale, and now they infect your cells. And this is how a virus replicates. This is on the outside of a cell. It has all those receptors for replication. And this is the inside of a virus. It literally gets inside your system and unpacks this stuff in here, invading your good cell. A carrier of a virus can be an insect. It can be mosquitoes. It can come from semen or saliva. And a virus infects the cells, and it takes over the host completely. And once a virus infects the cell, it takes over completely, and that's when you start seeing symptoms. But here's the kicker. The human body does not have the natural defense against the virus. It doesn't have it. And unfortunately for humans, some viral infections outpace the immune system. So the best way to deal with any viral load, especially what we're dealing with now, is to support your immune system so well that if the virus does replicate, it doesn't replicate faster than your immune system can deal with it. That's the problem. That's what we're dealing with. We have a virus in place. The virus is replicating faster than the immune system can handle it, and the whole body is starting to shut down for different populations, especially for people who are already ill and for the elderly. The elderly specifically, because people who are older tend, not always, but tend to have underlying chronic diseases. So it's not so much your age, but it's your vulnerability because of your age, and because most people over a certain age have these chronic diseases anyway. So what is immunity? You have several types of immunity. You have cellular immunity, known as cell-mediated immunity, and that's important for your overall immune system. And then you have a humoral immunity. So let me explain it real fast. Your cellular immunity says, I'm a cell, something's coming in, I'm going to fight it. And you can fight it through some other terms called macrophages and some other antibodies that your body already has within itself for protection. The cell is not completely vulnerable. And then you have humoral immunity. Humoral immunity is what you get when you get a vaccination. So you have one immunity that comes from your body's own cell. It fights things off the best as it can. And then you have immunity that's fostered by a vaccine. So when you get a vaccine, your body will create a memory cell. And if your body says, I see this pathogen, I'm going to create a memory for it. So the next time it shows up, I'm going to be able to kill it. That is the rationale for vaccinations. The problem with that model sometimes is if your body's created a memory T cell, which is your humoral immunity, and the new strain of that new virus comes along, then you're still not protected. And that's why we have different cases of the flu, and the flu shot isn't effective, because the humoral immunity that we assume that we get from a flu shot is ineffective because the flu itself has mutated. And the cells that you created to protect yourself doesn't know this new virus or this new pathogen, so it can't fight for it. And those are the two types of immunities. Both types of immunities are a critical part of a healthy and functioning immune system, but you have to make sure you keep them up. So the three types of immune deficiencies, because a lot of people say, well, I'm healthy, but I'm still getting colds, or I think I'm healthy, but things are still happening. Well, there's different layers of immunity. And so therefore, let's talk about that. In Chinese medicine, we have what they call your constitution. Your constitution is what you get from your mother and your father. If your father was strong and he had strong semen, and your mother was strong and she had a strong egg, then when the two met, your general constitution as a person is going to be strong. But if your parents were not as healthy when they conceived you, then your immunity is not going to be as good as a result. And that's called the primary immunity. That's what you're born with. Then you have acquired immunity. Everybody understands diabetes is acquired disease, AIDS is an acquired disease, HIV, and certain blood disorders create acquired immunity. It means you didn't have it at birth, but you've acquired it over time. The third immunity or deficiency we're talking about is when your immune system is overactive, and it overacts so much that it starts creating a problem. An example of that would be lupus is an autoimmune disease. Fibromyalgia might be considered part of that. And what it means is your body is starting to fight itself because it thinks that itself is the enemy. There's a lot of different ways that happens. Cells turn on and off depending on your diet, depending on your environment. And if you guys are paying attention to your tips, tricks, and tools, you know that it has everything to do with what you eat, what you drink, what you inhale, and what you rub on your skin. So those are the three types of immune deficiencies that are possible. So you're either born with it, you acquire it, or your system starts fighting itself because a cell started acting up. And a cell starts acting up because of things that come into the body: what you eat, what you drink, what you inhale, what you rub on your skin. If we talk about what are your immune busters, like I said, we're going to go quickly because I want to be able to give you all of it so you can have enough time to ask questions. The three immunity busters are very simple. Lack of sleep. When you sleep, your body is regenerating, and restoring itself on a cellular level. One of the things you learn about the tools is you question yourself and you say, what is my sleep like? What's my energy like? What's my bowel function like? And what are my moods like? We talk about sleep first because if you're not getting restorative sleep, everything is going to be off anyway. It's like a cascading effect. So sleep is critical to your immunity. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you are going to be in the category of people whose immune function will not be able to sustain the coronavirus or any other virus for that fact. Sugar. When you eat sugar, it reduces your immunity by 75% for 4 to 6 hours at a time. So let's think about that. If you have cereal for breakfast, which is sugar, and then you have a sandwich or granola bar with a granola bar for lunch, carbohydrates, and then dinner, you have your protein and your carbohydrates and something sweet and your dessert, then all day long, your immune system has been suppressed because there was not a 4 to 6 hour window in between those meals, and each of those meals required that much time to bring your immune system back up. So if you think about that for a day, that's one thing. But imagine if that's your lifestyle, your diet over the course of months, maybe since last year. There was a young lady who IM'd me, and she says, would you buy my cakes and pies and cupcakes? And I just wanted to scream through the computer because I wanted to say to her, do you realize that all of this sugar that you're baking is contributing to the disease factors in our lives right now in our society? Maybe that's not the greatest business to have if you're conscious about societal and community health. I didn't go there, but that's what I thought. And so when you think about sugar, please think about your diet, because without having your immune system on top of its game, because you're doing two things at least, not sleeping well and eating a lot of sugar, then you are susceptible, and you probably will be a case of the corona that may or may not survive the hit to your immune system. Don't mean to scare you, but this is reality. Watching MSNBC today, I watched President Trump, and he said that theoretically we could see this continue through July or August. So if you've been hanging out with me for the past year and a half, you've learned a lot of stuff. This is where the rubber meets the road and the telltale signs of how adherent you have been to your tools, whether this prevention you've been doing is going to stand up to what we're about to face. That goes for me too. So we really have to be vigilant about really using the things that we know now. So the last thing, and there's more than three, but these are the most. The last one was a lack of exercise. Your immune system has everything to do with your body's ability to not only fight microbes, but also release them out of the body. And when you exercise, you pump your lymph system. And your lymph system is how your body releases toxins. So if you're a couch potato, toxins are getting in, you're not moving around, they're going to stay. And they're going to stay because you're not moving. And as you're not moving, bacteriums, viruses, fungus, yeast molds, they settle. And they settle in the elimination organs. And I'll show you what those are. So if you really want to be on top of this in terms of a natural wellness perspective, you have to adhere to understanding what your immunity is, what your cells are, and how these 3 immune busters can wreak havoc on your recovery. They might seem really simple, but if you understand it from a cellular level, which is why I gave you that first little cell tutorial, then you get it. So what are the major immune boosters? The first one is detoxification. Your body should be in a constant state of detoxifying. One of the ways that you know your body is detoxifying is if you sweat. That's a detoxifier. If your nose is running, that's a way that your body releases toxins. If you have good urine output, if you have good bowel movements, those are all the ways that you detoxify. And even if you do cough, your cough should be productive because your lungs' response to a toxin is to try to get it out of the body. So a cough isn't necessarily bad. It's only bad when it's non-productive. That means that what's in still can't come out. Another way to boost your immunity is appropriate herbs. I hear a lot of people talking about, well, I'm taking elderberry, I'm taking echinacea, I'm taking zinc, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to make a good thing bad. A caveat for echinacea, it should only be taken when you have symptoms, and you should only take it for 7 days. If you take it longer than 7 days, then you run the risk of your immune function being diminished and not increased. If you take zinc without the knowledge of copper, and you're taking a lot of vitamin C, you can run the risk of creating hypercholesteremia, which will harden your arteries or cause a blockage in your arteries. So if you really want to understand which proper herbs and stuff to take, it's a good idea just to come and get a free Zyto scan. That would help, because then you would know for sure which remedies you should be taking. Sleep, we talked about that. Fruits and veggies. If we're going to talk about fruits and vegetables, the healthiest thing to do is to eat fruits and vegetables which are in season for your region. That's a little difficult because we get food transferred from all over the world. But if you want to stay within the vegetable component and the fruit component, use the fruits that are not as sweet, low glycemic index, and that would be your berries, lemons, limes, those are really good. Pears, white pears are good because they help detoxify the kidneys. But stay away from the really sweet fruits, because those sweet fruits also contribute to your body's immune function being diminished if you eat too many. So for instance, if you made yourself a fruit smoothie, let's say you had a fruit smoothie for breakfast, then you had a fruit smoothie for lunch, and you had a protein shake for dinner. That is a lot of sugar. So separating your portions in fruits and your frequency in fruits goes far better in keeping you healthy than if you were to eat a fruit smoothie every morning, because that's too much load on your pancreas. Meditation. Meditation is just sitting quiet and just relaxing and getting into a zone where you can be you. The other thing would be right frequencies. We talked about right frequencies before, and right frequencies you have access to or you know about from your book, From Panic to Empowerment. Resources I want to offer to help people process this is reduced office visits, so you can get a bioscan. And in the bioscan, I will only be doing the viral panel, the bacterial panel, and the immune booster panel to make sure that your body can fight. Your Zyto scan is going to give you your remedies, you know that. But your first line of defense and remedies is your detoxification. If you remember what I said about the cells and how cells make up systems or organs, If your cells are compromised, your organs are compromised, and the only way to jumpstart your healing potential is to do a detox at least once a year. It is a must, because a dirty, a polluted system cannot process good stuff. It's too busy fighting toxins that it can't take care of, and it's a constant fight. Your body doesn't say, let me stop fighting so I can grab this vitamin C. Let me stop fighting so I could deal with it. Doesn't. It can't. It has to deal with survival first. So if you want to put your body in a survival mode and reduce that load, detoxify your body first. A few of you have gotten, hopefully you're opening your emails and getting all the information that I'm putting out, and I'm giving very specific remedies to help you deal with what's happening right now. Core berberine is the #1 first line of defense, because it deals with your spleen and it filters the blood and activates the lymph system to activate your immune system. So these remedies do something very specific, very specific. They're just not remedies to just this. And the other thing is, energetics remedies are blends. So they're just not one, it's just not the single element, the single herb. Core berberine may assist in any healing strategy that activates the immune system. So we're talking about keeping the immune system strong. That's what core berberine does. If you look on the left side of the screen, you'll see all of the things that core berberine does. It does bacterial infections, viral infections, parasitic infections, fungal infections, digestion disorders, inflamed mucus, and respiratory infections. Since the coronavirus attacks the respiratory system, it makes sense to use a homeopathic botanical that's going to deal specifically with that organ and also get rid of those things in the rest of your body. The next remedy is core olive leaf. Everybody should know how wonderful core olive leaf is. It deals with everything. It's something you should constantly have in your arsenal of good stuff. Core olive leaf deals with bacteria, funguses, viruses, microbes, mycotoxins in the lungs, and it actively supports the abilities to contain and neutralize and eliminate pathogens. So core olive leaf does something, it does what berberine does, but it also does something else. It neutralizes and eliminates the pathogen. That's why core olive leaf is important. And core olive leaf is also an astringent, which makes it effective for dealing with inflammatory responses in the body. So, all right, so we're going to keep going. They almost shut us off, but they didn't. All right, the next one is Viracord. Viracord is very important because Viracord is a broad-based viral remedy. The last time I scanned a patient a week ago, I saw the coronavirus in the bioscan. I did not see coronavirus or COVID-19. That is different. Just like we have influenza, bird flu, swine flu, there's different strands of flus. There's different strands of corona. I've been given information that the COVID-19 strand of corona will be downloaded into my system, so I will be able to see it. And that's significant because the Zyto, the bioscan, helps me to not only identify the viral load in your system, but also neutralize it. Neutralize it means if it's neutralized in your system, then you will be able to build your immunity to fight it when it shows up. But if it's in your system and it's not neutralized, it will take hold and your immune system won't be able to support it because your body's already shown a weakness to it. Drainage tone. Drainage tone is very important because imagine having dirty dishwater. And you have this dirty dishwater and you washed all your dishes, but you don't drain the sink out. And over time, you're going to have to wash the dishes again. You're not going to put the new set of dirty dishes in the old dirty dishwater. You got to drain the water out. So once bacteria, viruses, parasites, and all that other stuff is in your system, you need to drain it. You can't leave those dead microbes in your system because that in itself creates a toxic load. And so powerful immune boosting sarcodes means the same. It supports the healing of the lymph system, the spleen, and the thymus. Your lymph system is like a roadway system all over your body, and it has stations. Those stations would be the lymph nodes under your arm, the lymph nodes in your groin, the lymph nodes under your maxilla, underneath your jawbone. That's where the common palpable lymph nodes are, but you have lymph nodes throughout your entire system. And it's those lymph nodes that needs to be drained because they get congested. And when they get congested, the body can't work. So that's why drainage tone is part of the protocol of remedies that I specifically chose to help you deal with this corona thing, because it's gonna get worse before it gets better. And unfortunately, that's not just me being a Debbie Downer, that's just the reality of where we are. So when we talk about, I did say that the other resource that I was gonna offer was reduce office rates and maybe adding another day to the office schedule up until a point. And that point is gonna be to where I am not putting myself and my family in harm's way. So it makes sense to adhere or to latch on to these resources to put in your toolbox now, because I don't know how long I'll be online. I might have to jump offline because there's so much that's unknown about how this virus is gonna pan out. I have to make sure that I stay well. So in the future, I can jump back in and be a part of the conversation and the healing strategy with other practitioners like I'm doing this evening. There's a mandate for all practitioners in the alternative medicine and natural wellness field, naturopaths, all kinds of doctors are mandated to do some sort of informational with their patients, and that's why we're doing this evening, so you can be informed. I didn't just pull this information out of a hat. So there's references that you're going to be able to click on so you can get additional information for yourself. But the whole point of this session was for you to understand just the very basics. Understand what a cell is, understanding what a virus is, understand what your immunity is, how it's affected, how you can boost it, and how you can still deal with your understanding of self. You've learned a lot about yourself over these past couple of months with me, or years, however long you've been with me. This is the time to use your toolbox. Everything in your toolbox is fair game. You know about your 12 bad foods. You know about sugars. Even agave and agave, brown sugars, those are still sugars. Please, please, please stay away from them. And if you're going to have some honey, you all know that you have honey when your tea or your coffee or whatever you're drinking is not too hot to kill the enzyme, because honey is a good antibacterial. So without further ado, I'm going to now leave this session to the Q&A part. It was always about the Q&A part, but I wanted to give you some meat and potatoes information so you can have informed questions based on information that makes sense. So I'm going to open it up, see if anybody has any questions, and we'll just have a discussion from there. All right, so everybody is unmuted. I'm going to even unmute Sister Cynthia. Anybody have a question? Everybody there?
We're here. Can you hear us?
We're here. I can hear you. Anybody have a question?
Dr. Stephanie, I have a question.
Yes.
It seems like I've been hearing from the news and the media and different outlets that this is the virus that causes a common cold. But what specifically is so different about this that it takes it up a notch beyond just the common cold?
Well, there's a myth that the common cold is common. That's one thing. People get it so often, and because it's so prevalent, we just become used to it. But there's really no such thing as a common cold. A cold has a different, it's a virus. and the strain of the virus changes every year. The difference between COVID-19 is a new strand of a virus that nobody's ever seen before, because the word on the street, and don't quote me, this is man-made. And so since it is man-made, potentially, allegedly, there's no precedent for it. And they're only seeing what it's been bearing over the past couple of weeks. And it's killing thousands of people. So they can't contain it like they would what you would call a common cold. And a common cold isn't contained either. What happens when you get a common cold is you're dealing with symptoms. So if you have a stuffy nose, which is inflammation of the sinus passage, then you're dealing with a nasal decongestant, but you're not getting rid of the cold. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and word on the street, I heard that too.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I wish I could make my screen see you. But this is being recorded, so we'll be able to see it again. Share computer sound, show names and edit. Anybody else have a question?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Darcel, and I like to swim and I like to bowl, but more specifically, I like to dig in the dirt. Is it a good thing now to not dig in the dirt, to plant the flowers and the seeds that I normally do at this time of year? Because I can't swim, because the gym is closed. I can't bowl, because the bowling alley is cold. Even church has decided that they would only have a certain amount of people that will be able to come to 3 services. So my question is, I like digging in the dirt. Is that a good thing now or not?
Well, within the webinar earlier, I mentioned the transmission of how viruses are transmitted. And one of the ways that viruses are transmitted is by insects. It's not so much that the insect has the virus, but if it landed on a surface that has a virus and it has it on its wings or something, and maybe it lands on your shoulder and then you rub your eye, that's kind of it's a potential. I don't know how prevalent it is, but since we don't know enough to say yay or nay, I would just stay with the information that I provided. Transmission of a virus can be transmitted by mosquitoes and other bugs because of because of exposure, not because they actually carry it per se.
Okay.
I know. That's why this webinar was necessary, so you can get all your questions and answers out there in the open, so you can be aware. Anybody else have a question?
If no one else does, I have a second question.
Sure.
I'm getting mixed emotions or mixed responses from hand sanitizer, that the Cradle and brands like that actually are harmful because of the immunity factor, and that to use too much of it, you build up, you probably can speak better to this, you build up something that it no longer is effective.
Well, let's look at it logically. Your skin is the largest protective organ. It protects the outside world, protects your body from the outside world internally. Internally, we have those cells. Cells make up organs, and organs make up organ systems. If you diminish the integrity of the skin because of the alcohol, and you potentially start getting cracks in your skin because of the dryness, then your skin is no longer a secure barrier. And if you touch a surface that has the coronavirus on it, now the virus has an opportunistic way to get in. That's called an opportunistic infection.
Oh, wow.
So I know it is a lot. And so I would err on the side of using soap and water and making sure that you constantly have some shea butter or something to keep your skin moisturized, so you won't be susceptible to opportunistic infection. Use hand sanitizer as kind of like a last resort. One of the things you can do You can always create your own wipes. I recommend getting some tea tree oil, glycerin, and some just white paper towels. Saturate the paper towels with the tea tree oil and the glycerin solution and put them in a Ziploc baggie. When you need to go wash your hands, you can use that to wash and sanitize your hands. That gives you a protective barrier with the glycerin. The tea tree oil is an antibacterial, antimicrobial. So let's clear something up. A microbial is what you would call in a lump sum category a fungus, a yeast, a parasite, a mold, and a virus. Those are a microbial. Okay? So when you say something is microbial, that's what you're talking about. So tea tree oil is a microbial. That's how you can do that. Or you could probably just saturate some paper towels in soap and water and put them in a Ziploc baggie and use that. But to only use and only depend on the gel, you're gonna compromise the integrity of your skin, which is your biggest defender.
Thank you. That's clarity that I needed.
Good.
I'll pull back, and I'm gonna try that. I'll try the glycerin and the tea tree oil, because I heard tea tree oil is just fabulous for so many things.
It is. Tea tree oil is actually melaleuca. So if you heard the term melaleuca, that's what it is. That's the medicinal name.
Yes, I've heard of that.
Yep. All right. Anybody else? Do I need to start calling names? I see Chinere. I see Sister Cynthia. Let me unmute you in case you have something that you want to communicate. Okay, so all participants are unmuted, but Chinere, you might have to unmute yourself. Oh, there you go. And Sister Cynthia, try to unmute yourself, because I tried to unmute you and there you go. Does anybody else have any more questions?
Not right now, Dr. Reid. You were very thorough.
Good, good.
And I learned a lot about that cell and how the virus gets inside the cell. So that enlightened me quite a bit.
Good. Because my understanding from as we move from panic to empowerment, you ladies have been empowered because you have a new understanding of what's reality. You've learned how to change your paradigm based on new understanding, and that in itself is empowerment. Now you just have to start using your toolbox of things that you know to do. And I can't stress it enough. If you have not had a detox, please, please, please do that. Because I don't know when they're going to run out. I don't know when opening channels runs out at least 3 times a year on a normal basis. On a normal basis, it's frequently on back order, and it's on back order more so because of the combination. So they might not have Pure Body Clear and Colon Clear. Pure Body Clear and Colon Clear cleans out bacteria, virus, yeast, and molds throughout the whole system, and including your digestive system, which is critical to your survival. When they don't have all the components of the detox program, they won't allow it to be ordered. They put it on hold. Imagine not having access to that. Then let's go back, since we have time, understanding what these remedies do. Let's go back to berberine. Berberine is the first line of defense. It doesn't get any better than that, because berberine stimulates the spleen, which filters the blood, and it activates your immune response. You can assume that if your body is toxic, your immune response is not activated. How would you know? Because you're going to start feeling bad quickly. So we're in the flu season, and if you got the sniffles, the flu, the cold, or whatever, and you're starting to, that shows me that your immune system is not activated. And if you're eating sugar or bread or things that create an inflammatory response, your immune system is not activated. But what is also happening is these things that we're trying to get rid of are growing. So bacteria is growing, viruses are growing, parasites are growing, funguses are growing. You'll know it because you'll start having a digestive problem, gas, bloating, and indigestion, constipation. That's the telltale sign that your immune system is out of whack, because the toxic load of parasitic infection and their byproduct creates a digestive problem. So if you're not doing something actively to deal with your immune system, these microbes are actively multiplying.
Dr. Reid, how often do you take this remedy?
The berberine?
Yes, the berberine.
The berberine is what I start patients on to jumpstart their immune system, because you see it says activates the immune system. And so if you take core berberine twice a day for a month, you're activating your immune system. But then after about a week and a half, if you're asymptomatic, I just tell you to chill for a second. But if you start feeling symptoms, then I say, okay, now is the time to take your core olive leaf. So these things happen in progression. I put them in progression is because if your immune system is up to par, then these other remedies are going to just back up the support if there's a problem. So these 4 remedies should always be in your arsenal of stuff now that we have a problem. If you haven't thought about your immune system before, berberine is the way to activate it after you detox. Because remember, if your body is dirty, it can't do much of anything else because it's constantly trying to fight off toxins. It doesn't stop fighting toxins. That's its job, survival. It will always fight first, and then it'll assimilate later. It can't assimilate if it's fighting. That's why you detox. So you start with the berberine, then you go to the core olive leaf, and then you drain the toxins out of your system while you're taking the Virocord. That's the path that's the trajectory of how things should go in order to keep your immune system on point. And it's not to say that you have to take these all the time. If you have, every time you've ordered something from Energetics, and that goes for any of you, you were given a remedy sheet. Hopefully you created a database, because it's that database that also you should be referring to, because that's your toolbox. And you may have some of these remedies already, but for now on, these are going to be your go-to, because we're dealing with the situation that we're going to be constantly flooded with bacteria. So if you have let's say you have a viral load and the virus takes over the cell and you start having symptoms, well, because your immune system is already weak, the bacteria that's already there, it now has a home, and it has something, a way to grow, because the system is weak. And then whatever fungus is there, it's going to grow. So it just keeps growing. So we gotta take care of these. Man, I hope I'm sounding passionate, because I'm seeing some things that's really disturbing. But anyway, I hope that answers your question, Sister Cynthia.
It did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Trace, you have another question?
I'm probably interested in starting that cycle with the berberine.
You know how to do it. You can just go to the app and just get it from the app.
Okay.
Yeah. I recommend that you get those 4 remedies, because like I said, I don't know when they're going to run out. And you might need some stuff. Like what I did was I got all of my family members 3 of each, just to keep them. And then I'll tell them, they'll say, when do I take such and such? I'm like, well, take berberine first. And if you're good, then we'll go to the next thing. But those are things you're supposed to have on. Just like you're supposed to stock up on toilet paper right about now. These are the 4 remedies you stock up on.
Dr. Stephanie,
Yes.
I have my hand raised, and I want to ask the question with reference to everybody knowing about holding the berberine, the core olive leaf, or the back core to their body. And if you swing forward, you need it. If you swing backwards, you don't.
Yeah, kinesiology muscle testing is the way to test it, to see if you still need it. But these are the 4 remedies that are a must-have, and you can definitely test it to determine when, or you could just call me and ask me. And it's going to be based on symptoms.
Okay.
Symptoms and muscle testing.
And the next question is number 2 is, do you take one, put it under your tongue, wait for a little while, and then do the other drop? Or
No, you can do them simultaneously. They work synergistically.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? There's some functionalities that I'm not using, so I don't see hands raised, so you can just chime in. Since it's only a few of us, we can just speak openly.
I'm just processing it all.
Hi, Cappy.
How you doing?
I'm good. So is there something I can help you process? You have a question that's swirling around in your beautiful mind?
No, just taking it all in and, you know, paying attention to what's being said, what's going on.
Okay.
What I still need to get, what I already have.
Okay. Okay. And I see from what was on the list of remedies that will help? Is that Chinere? Yes. So that list of remedies, Chinere, has been floating through the app for the past 2 weeks, and I'm showing it to you here with the corresponding remedy sheet so you can understand what they do. And so the first remedy is corberberine. So if you want to write that down. But again, these are all still on the app as well. The next one is core olive leaf. Then Viracord. And Viracord is really important because it helps deal with lung infections, sinus infections, but it also deals with symptomology of a sore throat, swollen lymph nodes, a viral rash, muscle aches, because the virus is also very uncomfortable. Of course it would be, because it's taking over your cells. It's literally making a home in your cell and pushing the cell material out. So the problem with the virus is, unless your immune system is strong, your body doesn't have the original immunity to deal with it. It just has to deal with it as it shows up. But if your immune system is low, when it shows up, it will quickly take over the cell. And it will not only take over one cell, it will take over all of your cells. And eventually it takes over all of the cells of the lungs. And that creates symptoms, and the viral symptoms can be quelled with Viracord. So you wouldn't take Viracord unless you started feeling symptoms, but you would start activating your immune system by the berberine. So you start with berberine, olive leaf, then Viracord, and you followed up the drainage tone, because drainage tone drains all of that stuff out of your system. Let me go back to now. I actually saw there's a chat. The next chat. Okay. That's okay that your mic is not working. I've figured out how to get into the chat, so we're all good. And so from here, I'll just go back into the chat and see if I missed anything. I can, oh, you can see me. Okay, I didn't know you could see me. Is it okay to dig in the dirt? I hope I answered the dirt question. One of the things that's an interesting thing that I was thinking about is, when you think about how long the virus stays on surfaces, the virus can actually stay on your clothes. So when you're sneezing and they're telling you to sneeze in your arm, that's in a pinch. But you don't want to do that too often, because let's just say you forgot that you sneezed in your arm, You had on an outfit. You only had it on for a few hours. You could put it, you could hang it back up. It doesn't need to go right in the cleaners or right in the laundry right away. Now you're potentially contaminating your closet because the virus will stay in the fabric of your clothes. This is so beyond what we've ever imagined. And they said that this is worse than anything in history that they've ever known. We can't assume anything is okay. And that's why I was saying, I don't know how long I will be able to be online to support you in person. But if anybody has their own Zyto scan, hand cradle, there's a gazillion things that we can do with that hand cradle that you haven't even experienced in the office because there was no need to because you were in the office. But with the Zyto scan, I can scan remedies for you. I can scan the longevity stuff. I can do emotional stuff with you. I can even give you your frequencies through a Zyto scan. So a Zyto scan, we would have to transition how I use it now to make it work for a mainstream experience. So normally we would do a Zyto scan itself 4 times a year, but that's just to check for your emotions, see what your organs are doing, and see what your remedies are doing. But I can do so much with that Zyto scan, and we would replace what we're doing in the bioscan with the Zyto scan. I could even, since we can, you understand that we can do Zoom, I can do emotional clearing remotely. As long as I can see you swinging back and forth and you can see me giving you instructions, we can do your emotional clearing sessions. The only thing that you would be missing in the office would be your massages or your foot baths, and we can resume those at any time. But to just disconnect from you and be silent, my heart doesn't feel good about that. But I also have to be vigilant with understanding that as this progresses, I may have to go offline and find other ways to support you. And this is what all practitioners are doing. Even if you are sick, they're saying, do not go to the hospital. I know that sounds crazy, but that's exactly what they're asking, because guess what? If you go to the hospital and you don't have the virus, you're going to be contaminated. And when you leave the hospital, you're going to contaminate other people. So if you feel sick, you have to be kind of like unwell at home. That's another reason why these remedies are so critical, because they will speed up the healing process by allowing your body to boost its own immune system. Other than that, we're kind of like sitting ducks. And I definitely don't want you to be a sitting duck. So this session was designed to give you information that you could sink your teeth into, simple enough to be digestible, but comprehensive enough for you to understand how it's happening and what your recourse is, at least from a wellness or natural wellness perspective. I don't see any more questions coming in, so I think that might mean that we can disconnect. But I will
just real quick, what about fasting during this time? Does that help in any way?
So if your immune system, if you're already ill and unwell, your body is magnificent. Your appetite will quell on its own. If your body says, don't feed me, then don't feed it. But I wouldn't advise going on a fast if you're not unwell, because it's the energy from the food that supports your immunity.
Okay, I get that.
Okay.
Is there somewhere we can get this recording before it ends? I mean, after it ends?
I can send it out after it's over.
Now, will it include the PowerPoint?
Yes. Yeah, I can even send the PowerPoint so you can have the information, because I think it's very important for you to have this basic but critical understanding of what's happening, because knowing this, there's really no need to panic. You just know what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's it. Your immune system is the only thing that's going to support your recovery. Idris Elba was just diagnosed with the coronavirus. He seems to be fine. I don't know how it's gonna transpire in, 10 days in, 15 days in. They're only letting us see the beginning of it. We haven't heard anything else from Tom Hanks, right? So we really don't know. They're putting these celebrities up to make, to kind of lull us into this consciousness that it's fine, it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. In Italy, the mortuaries are so crowded that they stopped burials, and now they're only doing cremations. But now the crematories are overloaded. So the statistics is the United States will follow the progression as it did in Italy. The only way that we can take care of ourselves, is how I understand it, is to boost your immune system. That's the only chance we have. And Twinkies and cookies might seem good right now, but they are part of your no list. Anything that's sweet that's going to compromise your immunity should not even be palatable if you want to survive.
What if somebody has the virus, but they don't get sick? Does that mean that they're a carrier? And that they can give it?
Yes, they are. Yes, there's a shedding period where the cells shed, and that's what's happening. How it's progressing, younger people's immune systems are stronger than older people's. So a young person could get the virus and not have any symptoms, but if they're around someone who is elderly or has a chronic disease, then they become a carrier and they can infect their loved ones.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask any more questions.
Well, that's what this is about. The more you understand it, the more empowered you are. Because not knowing is not powerful. If you understand that eating this donut compromises my immune system by 75% for 4 to 6 hours, and I may have been exposed to somebody on a bus, then you're going to rethink that donut. I don't care how depressed and feel good food you think you might need. You're going to rethink the donut because it is that serious. But since you know that information, you are more empowered to make an executive decision about how to be well.
Yeah.
So you have stopped all your in-office visits?
I have not as of now. I will be seeing patients probably this week and next week, but depending on the information that keeps coming out, I may have to go offline. And that's why I keep recommending that if you want to continue your care, and this is for your whole family, that one hand cradle can service your whole entire family. So if you're with family members, they're not feeling well, you can call me and say, Dr. Reid, can you scan me? And it may get to the point where the scans, I'll just make it a wash. Just be free. I'd rather you be scanned and get what you need than you not have it and it could have been prevented. So yeah, I'm gonna stay online until probably the end of the month, but I still have to play it by ear according to the CDC. That's why I'm giving you these resources.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. School has officially closed. And because of the overload of the online platform, you can't even do your classes online anymore because of computer overload. So there's so many things that are affected. But our health is all we have, and this too shall pass. And as we progress through this maze of the unknown, recognize that you do know how to take care of yourself. You just have to sit quiet and listen to what your spirit is saying. So if your body feels cold, that means to bundle up, right? If your feet feels cold, put socks on. Your body is constantly speaking. If you have a cough, you want your cough to be productive. right? But if you have a cough that's not productive, then drainage tone would be something that you would take to help open up your pathways so that your lymph system can. So this is kind of common sense stuff now that you know what's possible. So how are we doing out there? Is everybody good?
Yeah.
Any more questions? Trace, you can ask me a gazillion questions. I don't mind.
No, I was just thinking to look out for your PowerPoint in your email at this point. And do you still have some openings for this week?
You'd have to look in the schedule to see.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, look in the app. The app would send the app.
Okay.
Yeah, do that. Yeah, so if you get your Zyto scan, if you get your hand cradle, your Zyto scan will be free.
Okay.
I think the office visits are going to be on a sliding scale until I have to close. That way I can see as many people quickly as possible before I go offline. And if I go online, if you have your cradle, you're fine. Even if I go offline and you can't come to me, you know what to do. Detox your body, get those 4 remedies, keep them on hand. Stay away from sugar, exercise, get some good sleep. Those are the most powerful but simplest ways for survival. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. I may try to record. Well, it's recorded. It might be a little choppy. I don't know if you want the recording or just the PowerPoint, but it's been recorded, so we can go from there, and I'll share it. Please share this information. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The PowerPoint is most relevant because you can always pull it up, look at it, see what.
Well, I'm going to send the PowerPoint with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to send it.
Okay.
But please share the information with your family and friends, because the other thing is people are going out buying stuff that they heard on Google that somebody said, and you can hurt yourself taking things that you really don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hear a lot of people taking green matcha. Green matcha tea is very good, but if you have a heart problem, you don't want to take it because it's too much caffeine, right? It'll cause the heart to race. And let's say if your heart races, you hear all this stuff about the coronavirus and you have a panic attack. Well, guess what? They're not going to treat you because it's not a critical situation. They will send you home. You have to figure out what is happening with me. This is really where tips, tricks, and tools really come into play. Really do. When you have a cough, that means you're barking at the world, you have something to say, and you have not been expressing yourself adequately. That's metaphysical in terms of a cough. That's not to say that the corona doesn't exist, but what it also says is you are vibrating on the same frequency as the virus, and that's why you got it. So keep your vibrations high, your energy high, your thoughts high, and I'll put out some right frequencies for you to click on as I normally do. There are specific right frequencies already out for the coronavirus. So, one last question, anybody, before we sign off? I'm going to sign off officially at 8:46, which is in probably about 60 seconds. Because I can't think of anything else to tell you. But if you have a question, I'm available. So I'm going to pack it up. And
Water.
What's the question about water, my love?
Just real quick, is there a specific water? I know the alkaline thing. Don't get caught up in that.
No, definitely not.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so here's the thing. What I recommend is you get yourself a good quality water filter, because water itself, bottled water, may go out of something. It might be something that becomes a shortage of. And number 2, our tap water is not going to be efficient because it has viruses and bacteria and fungus, yeast, and molds in the water. So if you boiled water, that would support the viral load, but we don't know what high temperature it needs to be in order for it to work. And then that still leaves the the metals in the water. But a filter, a good filter, filters out all the microbes and the metals. I use something called Aquasana. And how I found Aquasana is I just Googled the best water filtration system. It sits on top of the counter up here on the 3rd floor. We fill it up and it goes through reverse osmosis. And I change the filter in it like once every 3 months. That's how I get good quality water. But to go and buy water, that might be something that's not going to last for much longer.
Okay.
And it should always be purified, not spring. All right, you beautiful people. So it was a pleasure being able to do this teleconference with you, webinar, whatever you want to call it, Q&A session. I hope it was informative and it gave you a new perspective on changing your paradigm on how to live with this new reality. Okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're
Absolutely.
welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Reid.
You're welcome. Have a fantastic evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Thank you.
Hello, this is Dr. Stephanie. I hope that recap of that webinar was informative. You got some insight on what we're facing, how you can do things a little differently to improve your health. And don't panic. Just follow common sense instructions. Don't overthink it. Let your spirit be your guide and what the next step should be for you and your family, especially in terms of staying in place and keeping social distance whenever you can. It's all going to pan out at some point because nothing lasts forever and there's always an ebb and flow in how life goes. So with that being said, have a wonderful day. I look forward to communicating with you soon. Take care and be well.